Syracuse fans, get excited. It is a new era for Syracuse football as Fran Brown becomes the new head coach of the Orange. And typically, with a first-year head coach, it takes a while for them to hit their stride. They go through a bit of a rebuilding process. And I'm here to tell you that might not be the case this year. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down Syracuse's schedule and record for this upcoming season. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of those expert picks and our exclusive newsletters. You do not want to miss out on any of those. Those expert picks beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years, and we're going to make it 7 by the end of this year. The earlier you can sign up for those, the better. You get tons of exclusive content with it and guaranteed winnings. What's not to like? Go check it out and check out our mailing address as well to send us some of your team's gear to be featured in every single Gridiron Expert video. Our man Jerry up in New York, up at Syracuse, send us that beautiful Syracuse helmet up there. We'd love to get some more of your teams represented as we continue to grow our GE Nation. So let's take a look at this, guys. Syracuse finally had enough from Dino Babers. You know, he had some solid years with the Orange, got them to the postseason each of the last 2 years, but it just wasn't good enough. Typically because Syracuse would start very, very strong, falter in the middle of the year, and then last couple of years hadn't fared well in the postseason. Obviously, last year he got fired in the second to last game of the year. So you look at Syracuse now. New coach, Fran Brown, a New Jersey native, excellent recruiter, did extremely well during his time at Georgia. Going to breathe some new life into this program. It's exactly what Syracuse needed, and I think it's going to work out very well for them in the long run, and it's going to work out very well for them this year. Take a look at the offense. 10 starters back for the Orange, and they are loaded across the board. Kyle McCord, the transfer quarterback from Ohio State, comes in to be the QB of Syracuse. Threw for over 3,100 yards and 24 touchdowns last year, completing nearly 66% of his passes. That was a huge get for Fran Brown. I think surprised a lot of people that McCord chose Syracuse above all the other suitors. Oronde Gadsden comes back as one of his top receiving threats, back from an injury that he suffered early last year. Dan Villari is also back at tight end and can run some out of the Wildcat, played at the Wildcat position, played the Wildcat quarterback position last year. Going to be a threat both in the passing game, maybe some Wildcat packages. Who knows what Fran Brown's going to throw at you in 2024. Justice Ross Simmons comes in as a transfer wide receiver from Colorado State. He was a third-team Mountain West selection with over 700 yards last year. Zeed Haynes is transferring in at wide receiver from Georgia. And then they've got a great running back, one of the best running backs in the ACC, and LaQuint Allen, who rushed for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns last year, and is going to be running behind 4 returning offensive linemen. This Syracuse offense only averaged 23.5 points per game last year, and I could very well now see them averaging over 30 points per game, over a touchdown better in 2024. Defensively, 8 starters are back after giving up just 25.4 points per game last year. It really wasn't all that bad. And they returned their top 4 tacklers from 2023, led by their linebacker, Marlowe Wax, who had 110 tackles last season. The secondary for Syracuse, loaded. That's great, considering Fran Brown was a defensive backs coach. Elijah Clark and Justin Barron return. Deuce Chestnut returns after spending last year at LSU, returns to Syracuse, where he had 24 combined starts prior to his time with the Tigers, 24 starts with the Orange, I should say, and they also added their safety, Devin Grant, a first-team MAC selection at Buffalo last year, where he had 79 tackles and 5 interceptions. They returned no starters on the defensive line. Fran Brown addressed that by bringing in 5 big-time transfers as they transition from the 3-4 scheme to back to the 4-3 scheme. So a big transition for Syracuse, but they're loaded with tons of talent. And you look at the schedule and you go, holy crap, they have got a favorable schedule. So favorable. They're going to open up with a win against Ohio. That's number 1. So year 1, Fran Brown, game 1, gets a win. Then they host Georgia Tech. Right out the gate, they got a tough game, a conference game, but they're getting to host. If you look at Syracuse's schedule, they do not leave the state of New York. They did not leave home until October 5th. They are at home for an entire month. Talk about a welcome to the league Fran Brown, a welcome to coaching Fran Brown. That doesn't happen very often. They will beat Georgia Tech. They lost to the Yellow Jackets 31-22 last year. That was the game that ultimately resulted in Dino Babers getting fired after the end of it. Dan Villari played the quarterback in that game last year. Obviously, you're not going to do that well when you don't have a true quarterback under center. Now the Orange have home field advantage. They've got a true quarterback under center in Kyle McCord, and I believe they can exploit a Georgia Tech defense that was not good at all last season, giving up over 200 rushing yards per game. Syracuse had 206 rushing yards in that game last season. The Carrier Dome, yes, I know it goes by a new name now, but we're still calling it the Carrier Dome. It's going to be rocking. First conference game, a quality opponent. They're going to be ready to go for this game. Excitement's still going to be high. The newness hasn't worn off yet, and it's still not going to wear off when Syracuse gets this win over the Yellow Jackets. They get their bye week after that, early bye week, before they host another conference game. They get Stanford. Stanford having to travel a long, long way, about 2,400 plus miles to come play Syracuse in this game. And I should mention that this is the first time that the Orange are going to be hosting a California school since 1968, which is pretty awesome. First time hosting a California school since 1968. Syracuse owns the edge at every position here. They own the offensive edge. They own the quarterback edge. They own the running back edge, the receiving edge, everything offensively. They own the defensive edge in every capacity of this game. And you could argue that Stanford owns the coaching edge, but I think Fran Brown's going to get his job done, especially with home field advantage on his side. Kyle McCord lights up a Stanford secondary that gave up nearly 300 passing yards per game last year, and just like that, they are 3-0. They're going to make them 4-0 with a win over Holy Cross, an intriguing matchup there, but a win for the Orange nonetheless. And then they go on the road to UNLV, the Mountain West runner-up. So Stanford travels about 2,400 plus miles to play Syracuse, and then Syracuse is going to have to do a long road trip of their own, traveling about 2,400 plus miles to take on UNLV. UNLV, as we mentioned, the Mountain West runner-up last year, but they lose a lot of talent. Jaden Mayava is gone. That's our quarterback last year. They lose their top rusher from last year. A lot of big losses there. UNLV, led by a defensive-minded coach in Barry Odom, wasn't that great defensively last year, giving up 416 yards per game. The Syracuse offense, I think, wears down this UNLV defense. It might be close for about a half, maybe midway through the third quarter. Syracuse shaking off a little bit of that jet lag. But they're going to get the win over the Rebels nonetheless. And with that, Fran Brown's going to open his coaching career and have Syracuse at 5-0 heading into the bulk of conference play. But that's where it gets tricky. Here's where it gets tricky. Tell me if you've heard this before. Syracuse gets off to a strong start, falters midway through the year, finally finds a way to pick up a win somewhere in there, and goes to a bowl game, 6-6, 7-5, somewhere around there. That's what's happened the last few years under Dino Babers, right? In 2022, the Orange started 6-0, but then they lost 5 straight. Finished the year at 7-6. Just last year, Syracuse opened 4-0, off to a great start. Lost 5 straight, rallied a bit, clinched bowl eligibility at 6-6, but lost their bowl game to finish at 6-7. That's largely been due in part to very favorable schedules, just like Syracuse has now. So here's what's happened. Syracuse gets off to this strong start. They're 5-0, excitement's high. Then reality sets in. At NC State, at Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, at Boston College, at California, Miami to close out the year. I'm going to tell you right now, I think they're going to lose the next 3 games, Syracuse will. They will not beat NC State. The Orange are 1-5 all-time at NC State. NC State is 22-4 at home over the last 4 years. They're loaded with talent offensively. This might arguably be the most complete team that Syracuse has faced to this point. Georgia Tech going to be solid, but NC State, the most complete team on both sides of the ball. Syracuse falls to 5-1. They get a bye week. They go on the road to Pittsburgh. Interesting midweek game at Pittsburgh. Those midweek games, Thursday night games on the road, never easy if you're the road team. You don't like being the road team on those type of games. That's what Syracuse is here. Against Pittsburgh, both teams off a bye, but they've lost the last 10 trips, Syracuse has. Lost the last 10 trips to Pittsburgh. They haven't beaten the Pittsburgh Panthers on their home turf since 2001. They did beat Pittsburgh 28-13 last year, but the Panthers are going to be better on offense. They're going to be better on defense. They're going to have a new offensive scheme, and Cade Bell coming in, transforming that offense as the new coordinator there. I think Syracuse is going to struggle a little bit defensively here, maybe struggle a little bit with it being on the road. They drop game number 2, 5-2. Then they host Virginia Tech. The Orange got torched by the Hokies last year, 38-10. They were outgained 528 yards to 137 yards. This could be a trap game for Virginia Tech, no doubt about it. Again, playing at Syracuse is not easy by any means, but the Hokies returned the most production in all of college football this year. They are loaded on offense. Kyron Jones is going to be great. Bashaw Tutin's going to be great. They've got a great wide receiver core, and that defense is very, very, very dangerous. And they're going to wreak havoc on Kyle McCord. Maybe it could be one of his worst games of the year, despite it being at home. They drop 3 straight, 5-0 to 5-3, as they enter mid-November. On the road at Boston College, they lost to the Eagles 17-10 last year. Boston College, coming off a bye week, is huge here. Coming off a bye with home field advantage, with 17 starters back, with a dangerous dual-threat quarterback that I'm not sure Syracuse is going to be able to contain. Last year, Syracuse allowed 185 rushing yards to the Eagles. I'm afraid that number could be about the same this year if they're unable to contain Castellanos. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Again, on the road, beat up after 3 straight losses, even though 2 of them coming after the bye. I'm just not feeling Syracuse beating BC here in a game that could be massive in terms of both these teams trying to clinch bowl eligibility by season's end. But Bill O'Brien, first-year head coach with the Eagles, gets the job done, and Syracuse starting to get a little bit nervous now. Still 5 wins, just 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Haven't been able to clinch it, and they're not going to clinch it when they have to travel thousands of miles west to take on California. Another 2,400-plus mile road trip. They have to do it twice this year against UNLV and then again against California. This is a team that I think is relatively even to Syracuse. Even in quarterback play. Got a great running back in Jaden Ott. Relatively even in wide receiver and pass-catching play, although I might even give that edge to the Orange. But Justin Wilcox, also a defensive-minded coach, gonna get his defense under wraps. They weren't all that great last year. They're gonna bounce back this year. This is California's best team since about the 2019 season when California did win 8 games. Their most complete team since then, at least. Syracuse, with the long road trip, I think struggles against a much more quality team in California than UNLV is going to be. They lose this game. Everybody's panicking. They're 500. They've lost 5 straight games. What are we gonna do? Rest assured, you're going to beat UConn, and you're going to go bowling. Syracuse will go bowling for the 3rd straight year. They get a break against UConn late in the year. They are 6-5. So whatever happens against Miami doesn't even matter now because they're going to the postseason their first year with a brand new head coach, which is really all you could ask for. First-year head coach. Typically takes a while to hit your stride. Typically it takes a while to start winning quality games. Fran Brown's going to do it in year 1. He's going to get them to the postseason in year 1, a third-straight postseason berth. They're going to fall to Miami on senior day in the season finale. It's a major trap game for the Hurricanes, I will tell you that. Miami cannot afford to overlook Syracuse here. A Syracuse team that I think is going to be very competitive despite their losses. They're going to be very competitive in those losses. If Miami thinks this is going to be a cakewalk, if Miami sleepwalks through this game, they're going to be in deep trouble. I think this game is going to be closer than people think it's going to be. But Cam Ward and Damian Martinez and some elite wide receivers and this defense is going to be very, very stingy. Ultimately, it's going to be too much for a Miami team that could be fighting for an ACC title berth, maybe even a college football playoff berth. Miami going to have a lot more to play for here than Syracuse will after clinching bowl eligibility the week before. But with that, the Orange finish at 6-6. And I say, what a year. Yes, it might be disappointing going from 5-0 and then going 1-6 down the stretch. That's not ideal. And maybe you think they're going to beat Boston College. Maybe they can beat California. Who knows? But bottom line is, Fran Brown is going to come in here and he's going to get them to the postseason. I feel very confident about that. You already saw what he was able to do on the recruiting trail, getting guys like Kyle McCord to come in, getting some of these receivers to come into the transfer portal. That's not to mention what he's doing on the high school recruiting trail. This is a dangerous team. This is a sleeping giant, dare I say. Phenomenal hire, phenomenal recruiter. He's going to be off to a great start. And if this is setting the foundation, the only way to go is up for Syracuse. And that's exactly what's going to happen over these next few years. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. Do not miss out on that and those expert picks over there. Some of the best picks in the entire country. Do not miss out. The earlier you sign up, the better. Get all that exclusive content and become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.